Okay, so our skin can change in many different ways. So the first thing here is a blister, and this happens when the dermis and the epidermis separate. Fluid rushes in, and that's why we get those like fluid-filled bubbles on our skin. Calluses happen from gradual friction over time, and this causes the stratum basal cells to start dividing, and that starts to thicken the epidermis. So in the dermis here, we have these things called cutaneous glands. They're within the skin here. We have sweat glands, which are these green ones here. There are two different types of sweat glands. There's merocrine and apocrine. We'll go through each on the next slide. Sebaceous glands are oil. Serminous glands are earwax, and mammary glands are milk. So the sebaceous glands are here associated with the hair structure, and then the sweat glands are by themselves. The others we'll go through later. So merocrine glands are the ones throughout the whole body. There are millions of them. Their goal is to cool your body down. Apocrine sweat glands produce sweat that contain fatty acids, and this is our pheromones. And these apocrine glands will be by the hair follicles, and these will respond to stress and sex. The pheromones that they secrete are to, quote, attract a mate, which is crazy to me. That seems science fiction-like. So, merocrine glands, places that we have a lot of sweat: palms, soles of the feet, forehead, and remember, merocrine are the ones that are just cooling your body. Parts of the body that don't have sweat glands, lips, genitals, nipples, these are areas that we don't want to get slippery. Sebaceous glands are cleverly named because they secrete something called sebum, which is basically oil. These are holocrine glands, and if you remember, holocrine glands destroy themselves in order to secrete their contents. And these you find throughout the whole body, but there are a lot more on the face, forehead, scalp, and this is what causes acne when they get blocked. So the gland gets blocked, and then it gets clogged, and then you get that redness and bacteria come in, and that's what acne is. So sebum is that oily secretion. Sebum, as much as we hate that oiliness, is useful because it has some antibacterial and antifungal activity. So it's kind of part of your immune system. And then it also is right next to the hair here, so it's moisturizing the hair, moisturizing your skin. Something that's really funny is something called lanolin is found in a lot of skin creams. This is sheep sebum. So it's funny because we'll take soap and wash our face to get rid of all of our oil, and then we'll take a moisturizer and put sheep sebum on our face. So yeah, take that how you would like to hear that. Serminous glands are earwax. As gross as earwax is, it's really important to keep the eardrum flexible. So during loud sounds, the eardrum vibrates, and it needs to be flexible or it will shatter. Earwax is also really bitter, so mites and other pests do not like it. The ear would otherwise be kind of a direct passageway into the body, so it's really important to have something to protect ourselves from invasion. Mammary glands are secreting milk, and these are very rarely activated, but it's useful to be able to feed our babies. These are kind of like an apocrine sweat gland. So hypodermis is not a layer of the skin. This is a layer below the skin. As you notice here, you can see the red and blue. That is the vascular system. So red is artery, blue is vein. There's a lot of blood vessels right here, and you can see they have little branches that come up, and then they come all the way up here to this dark layer, which is the stratum basal. But then in the epidermis, you can see there aren't any blood vessels. In the hypodermis, there's yellow stuff that is adipose, which is fat. And fat is useful as energy reservoir and for insulation. Subcutaneous injections will be given here into the hypodermis. So we have epidermis here, dermis, and then hypodermis. This is a useful place to inject because look at all the blood vessels that are able to absorb the drug. Here, this is just a distribution of where subcutaneous fat tends to go in each sex. So you can see in men, it's mostly on the lower abdomen and the sides of their leg, their butt, but women, it's kind of more spread out throughout the body. These are a few root words I highly recommend knowing. Maybe pause and write down your definitions for these. So skin is colored. It has a few different colors. So skin is red because of something called hemoglobin, which is important in carrying oxygen. So if we are carrying oxygen correctly, our skin will have a nice little pink tint to it. Carotene is a little yellow coloring to the skin. This is the same thing that you see in egg yolks. And then melanin is that pigment produced by the melanocytes that gives us our darkness of our skin. Some things that are abnormal. So cyano is blue. Cyanosis is blueness of the skin. So if you ever walk into a room and see someone that's blue, you would know right away that they're having trouble breathing and they've gotten to the point already where their hemoglobin's not carrying enough oxygen and they need to be taken care of immediately. Erythema is redness into your skin. This is what happens when your parents are yelling at you because they're so mad and their face just turns bright red. Or if you're public speaking and you feel yourself blushing, that's the same thing. So the vessels in your skin will dilate and you'll get more blood flow to that area. Jaundice is the yellowing of the skin, and this is because of excess bilirubin. So your liver should be taking care of the bilirubin, but if there's damage to the liver, that bilirubin will accumulate in the blood and it has a little yellow tint to it. So individuals will appear yellow, and the sclera, the white of their eye, will appear very yellow. Pallor is paleness. This isn't genetic paleness, this is like lack of blood flow, shock paleness. Albinism is a genetic lack of melanin. So this enzyme tyrosinase converts tyrosine to melanin and gives pigment to the skin. If you don't have any tyrosinase, you're not able to create any melanin. So these individuals are very, very white. Hematoma are basically bruises, blood clots. Markings, so hemangiomas are birthmarks. These are little blood vessel masses. Freckles and moles are just groups of melanocytes. Freckles are flat, moles are elevated. Moles more commonly turn into skin cancers. Friction ridges are your fingerprints. These are little bumps on your finger from the dermal papillae. So this is a groupthink question. What causes a tan and about how long it will last? Pause for a second, think about it, and then I'll go through the answer. So tans are caused by melanocytes producing more melanin because they're trying to protect the DNA from damage. So tans last somewhere between 1 to 2 months because that's the amount of time that we said it takes to go from the stratum basal all the way up to the stratum corneum. I think we said 25 to 50 days, but that's about the same thing. So hair and nails are both composed of that keratin that we also see in the skin. It's just a little bit firmer. There are lots of different types of keratin. We find hair throughout the body. There are 3 main body hair types. So lanugal hair is that fine, unpigmented hair that you see on babies. If you've ever seen a premature baby, they might look really hairy because they still have a lot of this. Vellus hair is the fine unpigmented hair that you see on like arms of women or like legs of women and then like all over kids. And then terminal hair is the hair that we see like on the scalp that's very coarse and long. So hair, the follicles start within the dermis here, and then you can see the sebaceous glands, the oil glands right next to it. And then there's this really cool muscle called the erector pili muscle. So erect equals upright, and pili equals hair. So this is what makes hair stand upright, and this is what gives you goosebumps. There are also nerves that wrap around the follicle of the hair that can sense the movement. So we have different parts. There is the shaft of the hair, which is a part visible above the skin. There's a root of the hair below, and then the bulb is the swollen part down here where the hair is originating and where it's growing. The follicle that wraps around the hair is providing nutrients, and this helps hold the hair in place. Here's another picture looking at it. We can see the shaft, the root, and then the bulb down here, follicles surrounding it. We can see this erector pili or piloerector muscle, same thing, that gives you goosebumps. You can see the sebaceous glands here. The apocrine sweat glands also attached to the hair follicle. And then we have this little yellow looking structure here. These are nerves that wrap around the hair to give sensation. Hair color and texture, I don't really care that you know a whole lot about it. Just know that different textures are based on the shape, and the color is based on the different pigments being released. Okay, so you can see like really curly hair is kind of more ovular shaped. When hair grays, we stop producing pigment at some point in our lives, some earlier than others. My mom was fully gray at like age 25, hoping to not follow in her footsteps with that, but eventually we quit producing pigment, and then there's just air instead of where the pigments should be. A few different hair conditions. So alopecia is hair thinning or baldness. This is often a side effect of chemo or other drugs, actually. Pattern baldness is the baldness that we see in men. This is genetic. Hirsutism is excessive hair growth. So this is from some type of problem with the ovaries or the adrenal cortex, and this causes excessive hair growth throughout the whole body. So hair, body hair, is really useful to alert us to parasites growing on the skin. It's not really thick enough to give us any warmth like a bear or something, but we have enough to kind of alert us. Scalp hair is heat retention and sunburn cover. It also allows us for some individual expression. Beard, pubic, and axillary hair is for sexual maturity and distributing this pheromones, the sexual sense. Guard hairs, like on your eyelashes, eyes, are preventing foreign objects from going in. And then eyebrows, super weird, are really useful for expression.